All right, people. So today I'm joined by my good friend over here, Paul Kim, from Motion Recruitment Partners, the LA office, who sits on the product management recruiting team. How you doing over there, man?
Hey, I'm doing good. Can't complain. Friday. Yeah.
Won- Wonderful, wonderful. Man, brings back memories talking to you for myself.
Yeah, we're reminiscing, huh?
Right, right, right. I attribute all of my success to what I've learned at Motion. The best experience I never want to have again. But I in all fairness, if any of my old managers are watching this, I do tell all my friends, younger brothers and sisters that don't know what to do with their lives to get into tech recruiting. It's honestly, I think it's the best. It's better than an MBA. I've said
Yeah.
that many times publicly. It'll teach you the grit. But
Yeah.
you're on the product management recruiting team right now, and you want to hear like what are your thoughts about how's the recruiting market for
Mm.
product manager roles and what's going on there. But if you want to kind of introduce yourself, like how long have you been
Yeah.
with the company and how long have you been recruiting for product manager roles?
Yeah, definitely. Well, yeah, obviously thanks for bringing me on and, obviously taking the time here. But yeah, so I've been in recruiting for around 2.5 years. So stay relatively younger in the game, right? Compared to some other folks maybe. But I started with Motion in early 2022, and have been there since on the same team in LA. So focused on product management, a little bit of product design as well. So yeah, obviously, all in all, 2.5 years. I think I really joined the recruiting space at a probably a really interesting time. If you can go back to early 2022, I caught like the tail end of a lot of the kind of the good stuff, maybe a little like post COVID a bit, and then, you know, got into kind of where we are here, I guess. So, yeah, it's been a
Yeah.
ride so far.
Oh my gosh. No, you got into this is actually when the rock stars in the company are actually made during times like this. So I applaud you because even when the market was good, there were a lot of people I work with that couldn't even survive the first 30 days. So the fact that you've been in the racket for 2.5 years is a testament of, I think, your ability to go ahead and navigate the recruiting space and your work ethic. So big congrats to you because a lot of people they don't really make it to that mark. Uh,
Appreciate it.
with that said, right now, one of the toughest challenges that people are having on the candidate side is actually like being able to land product manager jobs, and actually get interviews. You being on the forefront, constantly talking to like heads and directors of product every single day. What are you really noticing in the trends? You know, like generally speaking, are whether companies are using recruiting agencies or not, like are companies still hiring for product managers?
Yeah, that's a tough one. So overall, I would say yes, definitely like companies are hiring for product managers. It's definitely a need in teams. From you probably already know how we work. So we work with small, like two people startup trying to find their first product manager, maybe help the CEO a lot, to all the way to the enterprise level on like, hey, we just need one person, 6 months, in and out kind of deal. So overall, there definitely is to answer your question, but in terms of trends, I'd say that's always a little tough with product management. I'd say like to say there's like an overarching theme of like a trend, right? It's pretty tough, I think. But I think in this climate, there's definitely sort of a want or a need of an individual that's like a real like master of their domain or like kind of their craft, whether it's various like feature release or um yeah, just like industry domain. I'd say they're very like hyper fixed on that right now.
Got it. What about like when it comes down to like full-time versus contract? Are you seeing
Hmm.
like more contract hires versus like more full-time or like generally the same? Like what are you noticing on your side?
Yeah, I think definitely proportionally there's a lot more contract roles out there in the space. Not saying like direct hires never or full time isn't, still a thing. Like there are a lot of teams that are hiring like that, but in terms of the contract, yeah, Because if you look at it from like a business standpoint, right, it's like, hey, we have like only a certain amount in terms of like the budget, but we do need to get this done. So how can we fix this problem, right? So, that's where contracting comes in, right? So you get someone in, they do the work. Hey, like we'll assess like where our budget is at the time when you're done. If there's, a need, and we can maybe move things around in the finance department and like get the money we need to like extend it, like we're all for that, right? So yeah, I think contracts definitely interesting. And I always like to tell candidates like in this market, like, it'd be great if you could find something in like 2 weeks or even a month, right? But I know some folks that have been looking for, you know, even a year, right? Like 6 months to a year. So contracts definitely like good good experience to, bolster that resume, obviously do the work. So yeah.
There's like this myth that like if you like take on like a contract, then you'll be forever typecasted as a contractor, and like you have no shot. It's kind of like, especially like us working in the LA office, they're like, that's just like a movie star going into a TV role. You don't like you go from
Yeah.
TV to movies, not like the other way. Like, do you? I mean, obviously, I have my own opinions about it, but I think it'd be nice to hear it from like a agency recruiter in 2024. Like, do you think that's true? Like, taking a contract role means like you don't have any chances of coming back to full time.
I mean, yeah, I never really understood that. Um, I don't think it lessens anyone's ability to like get the work done, um, and do it. I guess there are some recruiters out there that might be like, oh, why did you take a contract instead of a full time? And it's like, oh, I just didn't have it. Like the contract's the first thing that popped up. I wanted to do the work. It was an actual cool project. Like I wanted to do it, right? So I definitely don't think people should be, you know, hesitant about those roles. I mean, definitely do your homework on what the role is, and if you'll, have a good time like with the team, right? But um yeah, I've definitely heard some stories like that from candidates. They're like, I've done two contract roles and I just keep getting reached out to them now, which is good. But like, I also want a full time like direct hire. So yeah, um,
I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing because like you could get like contract. I think is so lucrative because like you do get pitched a lot more of those opportunities, like especially like once you actually like because like once you're open a contract, right? It's the way that I kind of saw contract versus like full time, especially for people transitioning into the product management space. Obviously, like full time is like great, but I feel that there's a lot of advantages because the barrier of entry, I think, is so much lower because they
yeah,
feel like I mean, I don't want to say it in a mean way, but like if you feel like you're leasing a car or like you're renting an apartment versus you're buying a house or buying a car, right?
yeah,
I feel like the stakes are raised of like because we used to, well, I used to, but you do it right now. The biggest hesitation is hiring the wrong person, and then like
mm,
then we gotta like do the offboarding paperwork, and then like when you onboard, you got like insurance and taxes and benefits and all
yeah.
that versus like contractors, like boom, we can just get it going right now. You can kind of test drive us while we're test driving you. And when I was at least when I was there, I don't you can tell me if it's still true or not. A lot of those contract roles did end up becoming full time. So as long as that person was like qualified, because good help is legitimately hard to find. I mean, I don't know what's your opinion on that.
Um, yeah, I think that's always like one of the reasons like people want to do contract, right? From a client's perspective. From a candidate standpoint, it's also just, they always have quicker interview processes. Like it's usually like a two-step interview. So those kind of, coming like they're pretty quickly getting done. I'd say right now, I feel like it's tricky to say. I don't think there's as much conversion, if I'm being honest. Like even if the help is good, and like I think a lot of hiring managers, especially at these bigger companies, are very restricted with like the higher like financial burdens, right? Of like, hey, I really want to convert you. You've been doing great, but like we just there's no headcount or like there's just nothing here. So like what I could do is we can keep extending you. So I see that people just get longer extensions on their contract. But the conversion piece, I don't think it's as frequent, I'd say, like as in the past.
What would you recommend? And I know you're talking to probably a lot more candidates than hiring managers in this market. You know,
Yeah.
let's go out there and flex out our 20,000 subscribers right now on YouTube. Is what will I'm pretty sure a lot of people are like they're probably blown. 2021, the market that you missed out on, which was candidates were like being taken out on lunch just to like hopefully show up to an interview. And now it's like completely reversed, right? But what would you say to candidates that's been like, unfortunately impacted and looking for a product manager job for, 3 months, 6 months, even like a year sometimes? What would you say to those guys?
Oh, sorry, you cut out a little bit. I didn't hear the question.
Oh yeah. Like what would you say to somebody that's been like looking for a product manager job for like maybe like, more than
Hmm.
3 to 6 months or even a year?
Yeah, definitely. I
Yeah,
mean,
definitely.
I
Uh,
always try to
I
say
mean,
like, hey, like you're not kind of the only one out there kind of going through that. I mean, that's like the number one. I just want to console them, right? But like, it doesn't go really far, right? Like some people are always like
doesn't go
appreciate
really
it,
far, right? Like
but
people are always like
it doesn't go
appreciate
far.
it, but
So
it
I
doesn't go
always
far.
like to recommend to people like
So I always like to recommend to people like
this is something that we do, obviously from a recruiter
this is
standpoint,
something that
especially
we do,
as an
obviously
agency
from
of
a
like
standpoint, especially as an
like
agency of
how are you like marketing
like
yourself and like
how are
do
you
you
like
know
marketing
like
yourself
your
and like
strength suits
do you
almost?
know like your strength suit almost?
So I'll like tell people to like, hey, get a
So
real good
I'll
understanding of
tell
like
people
who
to like,
you
hey, get
are
a real good understanding of like who you are
and like the positions that you think you would be, awesome at, and
you know,
like
awesome at,
try to
and
market
like
yourself for
try
that.
to market yourself.
So like go out there and like
So go
actively look
and
for those
actively for
positions
those
and like
positions
put yourself
and
out there, right? Because
because
there's too many
there's
talent out
too
there,
many.
right? So how are you going to differentiate yourself? And with that, it's like, hey, like you can work with recruiters, you can
Recruiters
work with like colleagues,
all
to get a
to
better
get a better
understanding of
understanding.
like, hey, like how should you kind of like, you know, market yourself? Yeah. So I think it's definitely like pivoting the job search of like in the past, maybe you could have just applied to like 30 or you were waiting to get like those messages, right, from recruiters. But now it's kind of like the other side of like, hey, like you got to be a little more active out there and like go after them and be more targeted. So,
So
and obviously there's a
obviously
few
there's
ways to do that.
ways to do that.
100%, man. Well, Paul, I know you're a busy guy. We've always, as an agency, ran a regimented, structured schedule. So I really appreciate you taking time out of your day to go ahead and interview with us. Um, if you guys are looking for a product manager job out there, I definitely feel that Motion Recruitment is actually one of the best companies because they're structured teams, dedicated recruiters for certain types of roles. And considering that Paul here has been with the team for 2.5 years, hiring managers, if you guys are
Yeah.
watching this, call Paul.
Yeah. I'm in LA too.
I
So
should have two Paul links, like hiring managers
I'm in
only.
LA too, so
Oh man. Yeah. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day, man. I appreciate it. You have a great weekend.
yeah, you too. I mean, yeah, appreciate it. Thanks for bringing me out here.
yeah, you too. I mean,